Hello, dear learners. This is Dr. Kaveri Swami, Professor, Department of Political Science, Head, Department of Social Sciences, Christo Jayanti College. So today I'm going to speak to you about the diplomacy, how a diplomat has been appointed, how he has been terminated, and what are the qualities that a diplomat should possess, and what are the immunities and privileges that a diplomat enjoys. So let's begin with an introduction to know about what exactly you mean by diplomacy and what is the root word of the term diplomacy, and who is a person who has introduced the term diplomacy for the first time in international relations. So the term diplomacy is originated from the Greek word diplomo, which gradually came to be related with the management of international relations. It is one of the oldest methods of coping with war and peace. It involves the use of language, that is word, rather than force. The term diplomacy was first time popularized by Edmund Burke in 1796. The task of diplomats are settling the issues through compromises, and this is being considered as an art of achieving peace, and it is an important element of national power. We normally say that in the diplomacy, if it ends in war, that means it has failed in its very objective. So the comparison of the diplomacy with the human body is, it has been said that diplomacy is to a nation what a brain is to a man. So it is one of the most important element of diplomacy is negotiation, and which is very much closely related to the national law. Now let's look in terms of some of the popular definitions given by the propounders, like we have Pedalford and Lincoln. So according to them, diplomacy is a process of representation and negotiations by which the state customarily deal with one another in times of peace. According to another popular thinker, K.M. Panikkar, who says that diplomacy is an art of forwarding one's interest in the relation to other countries. According to Harold Nicholson, he says that diplomacy is the management of international relations by means of negotiation. The methods by which these relations are adjusted and managed by ambassadors and envoys, the business of art of the diplomats. The other popular definitions, if we look, that's given by Professor Hans J. Morgenthau, which says that diplomacy is a profession of the national interest by the peaceful means. Another popular thinker is Quincy Wright, and he says that diplomacy is the art of negotiation in order to achieve the maximum of the group objectives with the minimum cost, with the system of politics in which war is a possibility. According to Christopher, he says that without the implementation of diplomacy in international policy, nations would be in a constant fear of war. Coming to the next, where we talk about the appointment and terminations. So functions of the diplomacy is representation and negotiation. So protecting the national interest of the nationals of their country abroad. The functions of these two services are complementary, and members are interchangeable with various ranks of the members of the diplomatic missions. So if you look in terms of the hierarchy of the diplomats, where we start with saying that the first is highest rank ambassador, consular officers, secretaries, and then attaches. So diplomatic machines are basically of two types, where you call one as a career diplomat and the other one we call it as a non-career diplomat. So a career diplomat is one where the member of a foreign service, where he take up the competitive exams, he qualifies the exam, and he is being appointed as an IFS officer. That's what we call it as a career diplomat. The other one that we have is a non-career diplomat. So here, this non-career diplomat is a person who has been chosen on the basis of his experience into a service, where we say that minimum if a person holds any government jobs, that's basically the central government jobs, with minimum of 10 years of experience and holds a good repute in the view of the president, then the president is entitled to appoint a person as a diplomat, which we popularly call it as a non-career diplomat. So these are the two processes through which diplomats are being appointed. Now let's look in terms of the termination. So the termination doesn't mean that he has been terminated from the service. The termination, it means that under what circumstances the diplomats can be called back. So we have the first one, the termination. If we look in terms from that, we call it as a recall, or it's a dismissal. That is, a person is being dismissed, or he is being recalled from the responsibilities where he was being assigned to. The next one is the expiry of a period for which he was being appointed. Assume if a diplomat has been appointed for a period of 5 years, if he completes his 5 years term in a particular country, then he has been called back. That's what we call it as expiry of a period for which he was being appointed. Next one is you have a completion of objective of a particular mission. Probably he might have been sent to some country with a particular mission or a particular objective. So once a particular objective or a mission has been fulfilled, so under that circumstances also a diplomat is being called back. Or else the other provision is that where if there is a death or a change of the sovereign of the receiving state. Supposing any state who is supposed to receive a person as a diplomat from another country, and by the time that the diplomat arrives, if there is a change or if there is a death of a sovereign, under that circumstance also the person has been called back. The next one is you have a death or a change of the sovereign of the sending state. Supposing a particular country is about to send a person as a diplomat, but unfortunately if there is a death or a change in the sovereign, under that circumstance also the diplomat is being called back. Or the last option that we have is declaration of the war. In case if the war has been declared to the country or the declared in the country where a diplomat is supposed to report, under that scenario also we see that a diplomat is been called back. So these are the ways through which where we a diplomat is being called back from the services. Now let's look in terms of the domestic privileges and the immunities that a diplomat enjoys when he is representing his motherland. The very first thing is he gets an immunity from the criminal jurisdiction. That's the first privileges that a diplomat enjoys, a immunity or a privileges. So under this particular scenario, what happens? The receiving state has no right to punish a diplomat, and he cannot be detained under the legal authorities of the receiving nation. So that's the first immunity that he enjoys. The second immunity, if we see, the immunity from the civil jurisdiction. That means no civil proceedings can be instituted against a diplomat. They cannot be arrested. They are being permitted to move freely throughout the country. However, an exception to this privilege is seen in the communist nation. Coming to the third one, where we say it's a religious freedom. So diplomatic personnel are given the right of practicing and spreading their religion, but not by force. Coming to the fourth immunity, we say immunity from appearing as a witness. So the diplomats are exempted from appearing before a court. They are obliged to appear as a witness for the case in any court unless they wish to do so. Apart from these other privileges, there are also certain other privileges that a diplomat enjoys, like they are being exempted from the direct taxes and custom duties. They have been granted privacy and secrecy in their correspondence and telephonic conversation. And in order to enjoy these privileges, a diplomat must see to it that his words and actions in no way create a disturbance to the host nations. Now let's look into the qualities of the diplomat. So what are the qualities that are expected from a diplomat? And these qualities are being beautifully put down by Harold Nicholson. So the first quality that we expect from a diplomat is the truthfulness. So the diplomat should be truthful towards his country. That's the first one. Second one is precision or clarity. So the information furnished by the diplomat should be clear. The information should not be overlapping or create any kind of confusion. The third one we say is calmness of mind. So the diplomat should maintain the calmness, and under no circumstances diplomat should lose his temper. The next that we say is about the good temper. So diplomat should have a control over his temper. Otherwise there is a possibility of spoiling a relation among the nations. Then we talk about the modesty. A diplomat should be known for his modesty, and they should be neither too much of an introvert or an extrovert. But one cannot really say whether the modesty really plays an important role. Too much modesty might lead to the conclusion that he is ignorant, for even the diplomats have come to realize that they can use the mass media to project themselves. The next one is patience. A diplomat should have a lot of patience to listen towards his enemy nations. And the next one we have is a loyalty. So there's a lot of expectation. Loyalty has been highly expected from a diplomat. So he must possess the quality of a loyalty, and he is the representative of a nation in another country. If his loyalty is in a question, then it might pose a danger to the national interest. These diplomats have to access to secret and sensitive information to which he has to remain loyal. This is the most important quality of the diplomat as it is required to possess. However, other than Harold Nicholson, we also see that Morgenthau has also spoken about certain qualities, like according to Morgenthau, a diplomat should suppress his personal like. Diplomat must understand his host country's interest without losing the light of his own country's interest. And he says that has to give the information in a clear and precise terms. He should also use his words carefully, and he should not be overconscious. So that's it about the information about the diplomats, and thank you so much.